what's up, everybody, and welcome back to hyPODermic, the pod that sticks you deep. I'm the pod boss, T.J. Bowser, and joining me as always is the Admiral of Anarchy, the Commandant of Chaos himself, Mr. Nick Benson. What's up, buddy?
What's happening, DJ? How you doing today?
Pretty damn good. We have a very special episode today and an even more special guest. Nick, I will let you introduce him.
This guy is really special to me because I met him back in, I think it was 2015 or 16, and we were both pretty lost outside of a bar that we were trying to find. But he happened to be one of the guys that played in the Dictators. He is, to me, an icon of music out of New York. He's worked with so many bands. It's hard for me to remember all of them. I know the Homewreckers, Tiger Mountain was one of them, the Dictators, NYC, and a myriad of others. And more currently working with a band called Osaka Popstar. And this is, let me introduce you to Dean Rispler.
Hey, everybody. Here's the best part is all three of us have the same type of background. We all have like rock and roll posters, records, guitars, and all ephemera that's like, you know, except for us, it's completely useless. Yeah. It's true. Look, it's very true. Look. This is what I spent all my bar mitzvah money on.
There you go. It's music.
It's like it's ridiculous, dude. I gotta tell you, living in New York City and moving this shit.
Oh Jesus,
dude! I remember there was so many times where moving, and it was like moving from like a 6th floor walk up to another 6th floor walk up. Really fun times. Like
it puts the FU in fun, maybe, right?
Oh yeah, unreal. Like living in New York City and being a record collector is like. It's like you may as well stab yourself. You know, it's like it's crazy. It's like and of course it's New York City, so everything's expensive. So you have to really have to dig deep to find the cheap shit. But number one, thank you for having me on. And number two, really important. I know a lot of listeners out there, and anyone who's watching this or listening is like, who the fuck is this guy? And the answer is, I don't even know. I don't know. I have no idea. Like. As of right now, I'm really the honest truth is, as of right now, I'm kind of doing nothing, and it sucks in a way, and in some ways it's kind of awesome, but I guess that's life, you know. But to my own defense, I've done a lot of cool stuff. I've done a lot of cool stuff.
True.
I have done a lot of cool. I've done a lot of cool stuff. Nothing of that would affect really much anybody, but listen. I'm talking to friends who are accountants, and I will say this: I've had a much more fun life than they have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just
very similar in that regard.
You know? Well, you've done a lot cooler stuff. I mean, just the fact that you got to work with Screamin' George is fucking rad, dude. I mean, like. I have that record, that the Mad 7-inch. I don't have the cover. The cover I bought. My version didn't have the cover. I guess George was living in New York, and I guess he sold a bunch to Venus Records without the cover. So they were only like $5 or $6 each, but I bought like 1 or 2 of them because I love that single so much.
Wow.
But that you worked on Society, and what you worked with anything else with him?
Oh yeah, I worked on a bunch of stuff with him, Japanese commercials to Bride of Reanimator, Society.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we did some stuff together. Love working with him. He's a great human, incredible artist, and an absolutely insane motherfucker.
Yeah, well, I mean, but the practical effects are just incredible. Like, and just like there's that. I mean, I know I'm going off on something I shouldn't. I'm not even involved with. But let me preface this to the listeners to be like, not only do I know Nick, but I know Kim and Carrie Ayers. That's how I met you. Them, and I know my wife. Believe it or not, I know my wife.
Good thing.
It's very rare, but I know my wife somewhat, and I know her enough that I know that she works in makeup as well. She worked with Kim and Carrie, and also with Christ, my brain's hurting. Chris Nelson. She worked with Chris Nelson, who you know, and so she.
Aaron and Mike Mekash too, I believe, right?
Yes, Mike McCash and his wife, who's
Right.
amazing. These are amazing people who do amazing work. And it's funny because I was always into that stuff. And to meet people like you, and to meet people like I met Howard Berger.
Oh yeah,
I met people in the business who were just like it was incredible. Like I was more excited to meet these people than I was to actually meet the stars of the movie. You know, like I think that's the coolest shit ever. You know, like
yeah.
But I mean, but again, I'm not in that business. I just watch the movies.
No, and this show isn't about me. This is about you.
No, I know. I'm just trying to preface to the listeners of where I'm at. So.
Yeah. So I don't know how many of your listeners know your full background either. I want to get to kind of the meat of what led you here. Like as a kid, like what inspired you? What made you want to do music? Those kinds of things. You know, talk about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, as a kid, I grew up listening to my parents, 45s and records, and it was all amazingly the same stuff that I fall back on now. It's all like 50s and 60s, early rock and roll, and stuff that still lasts and still means something to me. I mean, that's as much as I've gotten into really esoteric stuff, like really, really into it, like really into metal and all sorts of genres of metal and subgenres and the subgenres off of that. And the same thing with punk rock and hardcore, and the same thing with even other stuff, like stuff that went off into, punk rock and krautrock and I collect. I have a whole. I have a whole.
Into a lot.
Yeah, I'm into a lot of stuff. But when it comes right down to it, when it comes right down to it, like the best to me, the very best stuff is the stuff, the early rock and roll. Like I can't get enough of Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis and Roy Orbison and Everly Brothers and. All that shit. I just can't get enough of it. Like
all of those things are why we're here, right?
Yes.
And why we do what we do. Like,
yes.
I mean, even for me, even like getting into the effects business, I started out a musician, and those are the things that took me down the path.
Of course.
And I just turned a different way than when opportunity presented itself.
Yes. So, yes. And people don't realize how closely related. I mean, some people do. You do. I do. People don't really realize how closely related cinema and rock and roll is. It's like before rock and roll, people weren't making videos. Like the idea, the concept of the music video, as new as it seems, and when I say new, some people are like, oh, MTV 1980 or 1979 or whatever. They don't understand that like music videos were being made when rock and roll was invented.
Yeah.
There was machines. You'd go into like a fucking juke joint or a diner and there'd be a machine, very few because they were expensive, but there would be a machine that played videos that accompanied the song.
Yeah.
And that's like, people don't realize how cinematic rock and roll was. Mm-hmm. And unless they do their research, there's a reason why there were movies made about rock and roll. There's a reason why even the status quo, of course we have the status quo of like the Beatles and Kiss and stuff making movies and Elvis and stuff, but people don't realize that, that like Little Richard was in movies. All these people were in movies because they were so animated that they needed to capture them on film.
Yeah.
And then even then when the 60s came, it was so entwined. Like even movies that weren't music movies, like the music was such a big part of it. Like Easy Rider, of course. All these kind of films. But that was as a child growing up in a suburb and watching HBO and seeing fucking Phantom of the Paradise at like 7 years old, being like, what the fuck is going on here? That affected me greatly, like greatly, to the point where like that's that kind of shit ruins, and it's a combination of ruining and totally embellishing and enhancing your life. But it ruined. Like I feel like you're probably in the same boat. Like it ruined my life. Like after that, it was like, oh, I can't be. I'm not normal anymore.
Yeah.
Like you see shit like that, and it's like, oh, I'm not normal any. Like, you know, to see like rock and roll on film. I remember as a really young child and seeing videos of Bill Haley and the Comets.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I like people going like they're showing the audience going crazy, like really nuts, like nutsoid. And it was just like, oh, that's where I'm going to be.
Well, and to add to that, like now you're seeing even on like Disney and all the fucking streaming platforms, you're seeing all this found footage stuff of all these bands that like they were filming themselves.
Yep.
Whether it was a recording session or whatever, they were constantly doing stuff. And all of that stuff is all kind of coming out of the woodwork now. So that's, really that's why I started doing this show, is to talk about how interconnected our arts are.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. 100%. And for me, I was really lucky because my parents were, they grew up in Brooklyn and they used to go to the Alan Freed shows, and they, had cool record, not a lot. They weren't record collectors, but they had a few cool records, enough to get me started. And from there, they were very open and, and very accepting of, of my mom's an art teacher as well. So I was very lucky to be in a place where that was all accepted. Like it was accepted it was accepted to find out what you wanted to do creatively and what made your brain and your juices, flowing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
a fostered environment is always a lot more healthy than not. But I still think there's a lot of incredible artists that come out of, the adversity too.
Well, I think that I think the best ones came out of adversity. I mean,
sure.
you look at the greatest blues and early rock and roll artists, and they were all from heavy poverty and adversity, and they were not welcome in the beginnings of what they were doing. And the same goes for later on with even early heavy metal and punk rock and all that kind of stuff. People,
the guys like Leadbelly or all that, come on.
They were not
incredible stuff.
They're not really welcome in the mainstream, So, but that's where I was very lucky to grow up in that environment where I was encouraged in a lot of ways to do what I wanted to do for myself, which is a double-edged sword. A double-edged sword. It could have been, like there's a part of me who's like, oh yeah, I should have, taken college seriously. All this kind of, especially now when I'm like wondering what the next step is. But I mean, like, I was very lucky. Very lucky. Could have been way worse. So,
yeah, and I mean, did you as you kind of went down that path? Did you feel like you were leaning more towards, production, or just wanting to be in a band? Or
no. The production thing came way later. I'll tell you how I just wanted to play in a band. Like it was even thrilling. Like as ridiculous as I look back at my life, even before and during college, like the stupid bands I was in playing, like cover bands and all that kind of stuff. Like even that was thrilling in a way, because I was playing, I was in a band. I was in like something that was fun and, playing with different bands.
Yeah. You're out, you're doing it.
Yeah. And then to, eventually when I got to, I ended up, graduating right before I graduated NYU, and right before I graduated NYU, I had joined a really wild band. I think the Voluptuous Horror of Karen Black. I think you know that band. So that was that. I saw them. I went to go see them when I was in college. It was like the last couple of I think it was the last month or two of college. And a friend of mine's like, "Oh, you got to see this band. It's hilarious and amazing." And I saw them and I was like, "Wow, this is really fun. I'd love to be in a band like this." And literally 2 weeks after that show, this was pre-internet. So the Village Voice, which was like a big, downtown, East Village based
newspaper,
newspaper. Yes, exactly. That came out, and which I used to get every week to see what shows are playing. And then also there was a great classified section looking for band, people looking for bands, looking for members. So I just saw the Voluptuous Horror of Karen Black, and then 2 weeks later there's an ad that says drums and bass needed for Voluptuous Horror of Karen Black, and I'm like,
wow.
oh, I could play bass for that band. That's not a problem. And I really wasn't. I was playing bass a little bit, but I was like, okay, I could play for that band. And then I just called the number because there was no email or nothing back then.
Yeah.
I called the number, and it was Samoa from Karen Black. And he's like, yeah, come to my house on this day, like in for next week sometime. And we'll go through the songs and whatnot. So I think I met him earlier and got a cassette of the songs and learned the songs and came over, and he was like, yeah, man, you know how to play these songs. Let's start rehearsing,
Nice.
So we started rehearsing with a drummer who was really great, but that drummer ended up leaving for another band within like 2 weeks. And then luckily we got J.P. Patterson, who played with the Dictators and played with Manitoba's Wild Kingdom, amongst other bands. He also played in a band called Loved by Millions, which it was that famous dude from the Lost Boys video, the Lost Boys movie, the sax guy, the big dude, the fucking
Tim Capella.
Tim Capella. It was his band. He had a band called Loved by Millions.
Yeah.
And JP was in that band like before that. It was hilarious. It was funny stories. So I started playing. I was 21 years old. I didn't know anything. So I learned so much from JP because he was such a great musician. He is a great musician, amazing drummer. And from there, the band started playing out, and they decided, we're going to do a record. And they ended up doing a record. Coming back to the whole Dictators thing, they ended up doing a record with Andy Chernoff from Dictators.
Uh-huh.
He was the producer because he'd been producing a whole bunch of stuff. So he went into the studio and recorded this record, and I was really intent on watching what Andy did and how what a producer did. And after that session, I was like, oh, I love that. I love that someone has a producer for. It's so funny why they call it producer and why they, it doesn't make sense really. But producer for a record is basically a director for a film.
I think it's a little bit more than that. I think what a music producer does, you really have to, first of all, you have to kind of be a mediator, and you have to, you're trying to draw out what their vision of that music is.
Yeah, but it isn't, this is me.
It isn't, it isn't, because the director have their own vision. Yeah. They're the guy that has the vision.
But they still have to work.
Right, I understand,
people.
but it's a close comparison. Yeah. But I think that there's so much more to being a music producer, because you're trying to draw out from different people's visions into something that makes, sense. Yes. And do it without pissing them off.
Well, that's what I think. I think I would imagine. Maybe I'm wrong. I've never worked on. That's not true. I have worked on some films. But I think the better directors. Maybe I'm wrong. It's the same thing. Some producers work with an iron fist, and they're like, this is my way or the highway. And I think it's the same thing with directors. Some directors come in and this is the way it's going, or you get out. Right. And I think some directors are like, oh, that was interesting. Let's do that again.
Yeah, so, more of a collaborator kind of environment.
So and that's where I come from. I come from like, there's a point where it depends who you're working with too. Don't get me wrong. Some of the funnest records have been done with bands that can't play at all, and I have to teach them how to play their own songs. Sure. Believe me, that's how it goes. but that doesn't mean it wasn't a good product.
No, absolutely.
You know, it depends. It depends on who it is. And then there's some bands who are really amazing, like way better, way beyond musicians than I am. And it's just a matter of getting the best performances out of them.
Yeah.
And getting the best takes and there. So it really depends. So that took a long time to learn. You know, I saw what Andy was doing, and it also took me. I was young, and I didn't know anything. So it took me a long time also to realize how important, and this sounds dumb because it is the most important thing, but it took me a while to realize how important songs were. And it's one thing to play great and finish what you think is a song and play it great. But it's another thing to walk away from that song and be like, I cannot get that fucking chorus out of my head. Yeah. And then after a while, I was like, oh, okay, now I understand. Now I understand why there's bands that can't play at all, but still have, you know, still are famous. And there's bands that could play circles around people and they're not famous. Because the band that can't play it, maybe the band that can't play at all wrote some great songs, and that's how it goes. You know, it's like, and I realized that was the most important thing. And then that's the direction I took with that. The direction I started taking was working with a band. Now I have to do a really heavy pre-production and take them into, you know, their rehearsal spaces. And besides making sure they're playing what they should be playing correctly, it's really about perfecting what I think is the best parts of songs. Sure. Or making songs correct. And it doesn't matter what genre it is, because in my opinion, there's really only two things to music. It's songs. Number one is songs. Two is, if there's not a song, there has to be a feeling or an atmosphere that makes you feel something. Because I love soundtrack music. Mm-hmm. Like, I love soundtrack. I have racks of soundtrack music on vinyl. I love John Williams. I love, John Carpenter. I love, like Howard Shore. I love all this kind of stuff. Like, I love this atmospheric music that accompanies something else, because it makes you feel a certain way. Yeah. And it invokes emotion. It doesn't matter if there's really a song involved. But yeah, at the same time, when it comes to like every other kind of genre of music, what do you walk away remembering? You have to walk away remembering something. Like, I'm going to walk away, out of all the electronic music there is out there, and who started, he's one of the bands that started it, was Kraftwerk. There's a reason why we remember Kraftwerk songs and we don't remember maybe more than 3/4 or 5/8 of Can's catalog. And don't get me wrong, I love Can. Do not say I do not love Can. I love Can. So, but I'm not going to remember every Can or every Faust song. Yeah. But I do remember most. There's a reason why I remember everything off of Trans Europe Express or Radioactivity or The Model, because the songs are amazing. The songs are amazing. You could sing those songs back. You could sing the riffs back. The same reason why I remember every fucking Black Sabbath song, but I can't, if you held a gun to my head, I couldn't sing you back High on Fire or fucking Sleep. And don't get me wrong, I it's not like I dislike that stuff. I don't. I've seen both bands hundreds. It's just that I don't remember it. I don't remember St. Vitus songs. Like, St. Vitus, cool band, sure. I don't remember the songs because they had no fucking songs. They're not Black Sabbath. They're trying so hard to be Black Sabbath. They're not Black Sabbath. They're not writing those songs. They're not Tony Iommi. They're not writing these fucking riffs that are blocked in my head for so long. Like even later stuff that I didn't hear till later, it's still in my fucking head. Like, there's a reason why, like, even forgotten records, like, quote unquote forgotten records, like Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. Like, there's a reason why those records are still awesome, because the songs are fucking great. Even though back in the day when I was a kid, they were like, "Oh, that record sucks. Don't even get it." Don't even get it. Like, I didn't even bother with those records as a kid, because all my older friends were like, "Oh, there's nothing cool on there." Guess what? The whole record's fucking cool. It just wasn't as cool as Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, because that record's phenomenal. But those records are really good, and the reason is because Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler are fucking geniuses. They're geniuses. They're fucking geniuses who wrote amazing songs. And it didn't matter what genre it was. It's just that they wrote great songs. And that's my concern for the rest of my life, for everyone who's involved in music.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is. Please write great songs. Please. Just please. I don't care what kind of genre it is. Just write great songs.
Well, I think really, like you said, it comes down to two things. Does it invoke emotion?
Yes.
And or does it have a catchy riff or phrase that you're constantly remembering? You know, those little things that fucking annoy you. It comes out of nowhere. It's stuck in your head.
Yeah.
Those are the things that make great songs.
Yes, exactly. And that, dear listeners, that applies to film as well. 100%. Like, I know that you and I, without even talking about it, I know there's certain films that you and I probably love that aren't great films. They just evoke this atmosphere that's fucking awesome, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you take a film like Begotten. That's fucking amazing. Like, it's amazing. Like the whole feeling of that film, you feel fucked up and dirty, and you feel like it's psychedelic without being colorful. It's like Edmund Marriage is a genius. Is that his name? Edmund Marriage? Is that his name? And the guy who did Suspect Zero as well. Like, that guy's a genius. He didn't do another movie after that. He did Suspect Zero, and that was it. He was out. So, like, that guy's a fucking genius. And that movie, Begotten, is amazing. And it's not amazing because I don't remember the story. I know the story because I own the fucking DVD and read the synopsis. But if I was to try to explain that to anybody and they saw the film, they'd be like, "Fuck you, Dean. This means nothing." Because it doesn't. It doesn't really mean anything. And it doesn't have to, because it's like, I don't know. We could talk about this all day. Like, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Is it a great movie? Yeah, it rules. It fucking rules. But is it on the same level as, like, some other movies we think about? And no, it doesn't have to be, because it was like, it's crazy and haphazard and fucking awesome. It's just awesome because it evokes an emotion that you cannot let go of. You cannot let go.
I think too, though, it's, another thing that goes hand in hand is the music with the film.
Yes.
I mean, really, truly think about watching, let's use Star Wars, for example. Mm-hmm. Think about watching that without a score.
Yeah.
It would be stupid. Yeah. It wouldn't bring any emotion.
Jaws.
Anything Carpenter did is the same thing. If you watch any of it without that music, it doesn't build what you're supposed to feel.
Yeah. But totally off tangent. Don't you feel like it's really funny that Carpenter employed Ennio Morricone for The Thing? And basically Ennio Morricone, it seems that Ennio Morricone for that film was like, "Oh, I'm just going to copy what John Carpenter did in the last few films." It was like, it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's fucking great. But it's basically like, when you hear the soundtrack, it was like, wait, he hired Ennio Morricone to do his own.
Copy him.
Yeah, I don't. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Because at that time, right around that time, Exorcist 2 was out, right? Was coming out around the same time. Now, Exorcist 2, despite all its hatred, people fucking hate that movie. I think it's way better than people think. And I also think, I will go on record and say that Ennio Morricone's soundtrack to Exorcist 2 is probably the most insane fucking soundtrack ever made. Ever made. Like, it's the scariest shit ever. That's, out of any record I own, out of all these hundreds and hundreds of thousands of records I have up here, like 5,000. I don't know how many records I got up here. The fucking Exorcist 2 soundtrack is the scariest one. It's so fucking scary. Like, if you listen to that on its own, it's fucking scary. That is a great soundtrack. And like, it has nothing to do with what he was doing with The Thing. It almost like when The Thing came out, it was like, you're just doing, like, why did it just funny? It's almost as if like someone said to Carpenter's like, oh, you have to get Morricone on here, and Morricone's like, just do what I do. I just need your name on it. That's what it feels like on that film. But it's still great. Don't get me wrong, it's great. One of my favorite movies. And talk about fucking practical effects. Holy shit, that movie rules. The best, dude. And I also am still to this day completely fucking mind blown that the same exact day that movie came out is the same day that Blade Runner came out. Like, crazy. Like, what? Mm-hmm. Like just bury me on that day, dude. Just maybe like I could have just watched those 2 movies in a row and be like, fucking kill me now. I'm done. It's great. It's great. Fucking, those are two of the best. Unreal, dude.
Yeah, and there's another one with a fucking incredible soundtrack.
Oh yeah, well, Vangelis stuff. Even on his own without a soundtrack is just awesome. Like, I love those Aphrodite's Child's records, and I love that stuff. That stuff's really cool. You know,
yeah, absolutely,
really cool stuff. Yeah, but that's that was unfortunately coming back to me. That's what got me into stuff, is like the whole amalgamation of visual and the sound oral stuff going on was very important to me. Still really important to me. And
well, I mean, it's pretty clear in the way that you do your business now, like, doing pre-production, making sure everything, it's really not a lot different than making a film.
No,
you go into pre-production, you make sure everything is in order.
Yes.
Make sure that things are laid out the way they need to be.
Yes.
And then you go into production. And
yes. Yeah.
It's really the same process.
Yes. If you're lucky, if you're lucky to find people, not that I'm any big shaking here, but it's very lucky to find people who care about budgets. That's where the producer comes in. It's like, okay, the budget's, at this, we can't go over. It's one thing to be in the film industry and or even in the music industry and having some sort of label behind it, but it's extremely. I don't think I've ever done a record where I don't think I've ever had the luxury of doing a record where we could even think about going over budget. Whereas, like, I think some film people. Yeah, it depends. It totally
depends who it is.
Depends who it is, but they have a little bit of luxury of running overtime with that, which I cannot. I could never do that. So the pre-production is a huge deal. Pre-production is like, we're going into the studio. I don't want to waste your time or money, so let's get this done.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Well, cool. So bring us up to kind of. You got into music production, you played with some really killer bands. Let's talk about, like, your time with the Dictators maybe, and then transition from there, talk about going forward from that.
Absolutely. Well, I was really lucky. I played with the Voluptuous Heart of Karen Black for a few years, and I was really lucky to do some really cool stuff. Like, we toured a little bit with White Zombie and the Cramps, so that was really cool. And then I left the band, and I was still young. I was in my 20s, but I was having already I was already in the midst of like some Jewy midlife crisis already in my 20s. and then I was like, what am I going to do now? And I kind of, for a little bit, I was like, I don't think I should do this at all anymore. And then a friend of mine, Todd Youth, who's not alive anymore, was like, oh, why don't you should play with Murphy's Law. I'm playing with Murphy's Law. He was not the original guitar player, but he was like the guy who was in the band a long time. And he's like, you should come play with us. And so I played with Murphy's Law for a while. and that was really fun and violent and stuff. You know, it was like hardcore gets a little violent and really crazy and kind of dumb at times. And I even continued that right after I was in Murphy's Law for a little while, and then I was playing bass with them, and then played guitar with Crown of Thorns, was the drummer from Murphy's Law, went on to join Crown of Thorns, and I was friends with Danny from Crown of Thorns, and that's even more violent and crazy. And then after that, I took some time off and had a string of other stuff go on. Nothing too major, but fun stuff. Did some touring with some couple other bands, and then I had a lot of time off because I really for a part of my life I really didn't know there was I had really lame. I mean, this is all retrospect, so it's going to sound funny, but I had these really lame, really stupid ideas that what I was doing was dumb. I mean, like I had these feelings like, oh, I shouldn't. This is dumb. Like being in music and art, whatever art stuff. I just felt like it was, for some reason, part of me was like telling, like really bad part of me was telling me that it was dumb. Like it was really, I think a lot of it had to do with money because I wasn't making a lot of money. Yeah. And it was really, really feast or famine. And when I tell you it was feast or famine, feast was lowercase and famine was all uppercase. For sure. It was like, I don't know what I'm going to do next. And especially living in fucking New York City, man, fucking unreal. Like the idea of going on tour and, you know, you don't know if you're going to make money or not.
Yeah.
And even if you do make money, it barely pays the rent because your rent is so high. So like, if you were lucky, you come home and pay the rent. And then it's like, what do I do next? Like, what do I do next? It's like, we don't have any
a constant roll of the dice.
So. Yes, exactly. And it got really, it was a roller coaster, and it was upsetting a lot of times. And I took a lot of time off, and I will tell you this, in retrospect, it was the dumbest thing ever to ever doubt that career choice. Like, it's one thing to be like, it's a crazy career choice. You may not make it. You may not. It's more important to just do it. Like I wasted so much time not doing stuff. Like I wasted so much time doubting myself and not doing stuff. And I say I'm saying this not only for myself and for this podcast, but for the listeners here who are hopefully I could easily say I'm saying this for the kids. I don't know how many kids are fucking watching this. I have no fucking idea. Maybe there's some 20-year-olds watching this podcast, or maybe there's even younger kids watching this. Sure. And hopefully they listen to this part, but it doesn't matter. It's even for people who are my age at 52 years old and are still not sure where they're at. Don't stop what you're doing. It's like that's the hugest mistake you could do. Like, don't stop what you're doing because somewhere in your head you're like, oh, I should have been a or some shit, you know? Like, just don't.
I think we all go through that, though. I think that there's times that we all go through that and we question whether we should be doing this or not.
Yeah,
and really almost everybody we've had on the show, like, we've all had those moments.
Yeah.
And we've questioned whether we should be doing this or not. And, always the answer is absolutely not, because if you're doing what you love, there is nothing better to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard, but sometimes it's hard doing shit you hate too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's also that feeling gets exacerbated by fucking money issues.
Yes.
You know, listen, I made the choice at a very, I was born in Brooklyn, and I made a very, at a very young age, I made this choice that I have to stay in New York City, and I shouldn't leave. And maybe that was a mistake, and maybe it wasn't, but it is the choice I made at the time, and it's just that when I was producing on a regular basis, like producing records, like every couple of months, like doing a new record, like I'd have these young bands asking me, like, what should I do? What should we do next? Like, what should we do? And they're looking for like some sort of answer, like, oh, go tour here or go do this. And I'd be like, no, just move out of New York. And they'd be like, what? Like, what? What are you talking about? And to them, and even to me at the time, like, especially in the 90s, New York City was the center of the fucking universe. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. The East Village from 1988 to 1998 was the fucking center of the fucking universe. Like, nobody gave a fuck about what else was going on anywhere, unless there was a little explosion in fucking, Seattle, a little bit of an explosion in San Francisco, Los Angeles, whatever fucking bullshit college town you want to come up with. I don't give a fuck, dude. The bottom line is that was the center of the universe. There was two places where the music business was, and it was LA and New York, and New York at the time was like blowing the fuck up. That's all that mattered was, when you were in New York, you were able to go from club to club to club to club to club, walking to see the greatest bands in the world, right? From all over. Didn't matter that they were from New York or not. But these bands, I'd be like, listen, you got to get the fuck out of here. And they'd be like, why? I'd be like, why you're any little bits of pennies you're making is going to your rent. Get the fuck out of here. Go somewhere else. Go to North Carolina. You don't even have to go that far. You're worried about missing New York. Go to New Jersey. Go live in fucking New Brunswick, New Jersey, in some shitty college town where you could get a job for $10 an hour and still live. And you have a house where you could rehearse in rather than spending $500 a month, rehearsing in some other shithole somewhere in the city where you can't afford. So, so I don't even remember what we were talking about. Something about the Flintstones, or what was it about? Something about the X-Files? What were we talking about? I don't remember. I went off on a tangent. I'm sorry. I do this.
Yeah, that's okay. That's really you're right on cue with where we're supposed to be, and with what we're talking about. I mean, that's at the core of what the show's about. Yeah, it's about inspiring others to help. These, whether it's kids that want to do special effects or kids that want to be music artists or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's all about letting them know, like, yeah, we've had our struggles too. We didn't just fucking become, and here we are doing all this shit. We literally just made choices, and we either fell into really cool shit or we didn't. And I'm not classically trained as a musician at all. I'm not formally trained as an effects artist. I just happen to be very good at it. Mm-hmm. And that's why, our typical message is that, just don't give up. If it's something you're passionate about, don't fucking give up. Just
exactly.
You have your challenges, you have your bad days, but just keep pushing.
Yeah, that's all. That's the bottom line. And, the doubts that I had were my own problems, but, my only advice to other people is, if you have those doubts, fight them. Just keep going. Right. Just keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just keep going.
So, tell me a little bit about what really, and I guess it really is kind of self-explanatory because we've already talked about it in your tangents, is that seems to be what drives you to be a music producer. I mean, you seem to want to help inspire these bands or help, steer them a little bit so that they, get where they need to be.
Yes. Well, I mean, I am definitely very involved with when it comes to working with bands, very involved with getting them to get to where, not only where they think they should be, but also where I think they should be. And I had a label for a little while. I had my own label, which is kind of a failure, but it was pretty cool to have for a little while. And I was trying to
That was Drug Front, right?
On Drug Front, I had Drug Front Records, and I was trying to, bring out these bands that I thought had cool songs and the cool whole vibe thing going on. Unfortunately, with the label, I did put out some cool stuff. It's just that, you're working with friends, and friends' bands, a lot of times you talk and you believe that they're actually going to do what they're going to do, but it's pretty rare. It's funny. It's funny because all the bands were like, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that. And very few of the bands did anything that you discussed,
Sure.
Life gets in the way. It's funny because one of the bands that still plays is this band, hilarious band and a great band called Two Man Advantage. It's a hockey hardcore band. They're like a punk rock hardcore band. All the songs are about hockey and beer, and they're the best dudes ever. And they're the only band that came to me that I was like, let's do a record with you guys. I love those guys. And they're like, Dean, we're never going to tour. We're old men now. We're never going to do this. We're never going to do. Out of all the bands that they did the most. Out of all the bands who told me they were going to do this and that, they were the band who told me they weren't going to do anything and did more than anybody else. They actually went on tour, sold out their records, actually ordered more. They were like totally, but that's the kind of people they are. And other bands were like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And within 3 weeks after the records come out, they're like broken up already. But that's okay. That's the chance I took. I knew that wasn't going to be a money making proposition, but I wanted to bring some of these bands out to the forefront. And I still want to do that. Like, I don't want to do it as a label anymore because that kind of ruined a part of my life, but whatever. But I mean, if I find bands that I like, I want them in my job, if they allow me to produce the record, my job is to make them sound at the very best they can at that particular time.
Right.
And that's all I care about. I want the very best I can get out of this band at that particular time. The very best performances. That's what I want. And that's the only thing I could say is like, we do, I go in and do pre-production. And then when we go in to do the record, we try to get everyone comfortable. Like that's another thing. I try to, I want everybody when they go in, I want everybody that I know in these, most of the bands I end up working with, most of them end up being friends. Yeah. For the most part. So like, I want them to be comfortable. I want them to go into the studio and not feel scared. Like I was scared when I was a kid. I was 21 years old and going to the studio. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I didn't know anything. I never played with headphones on. I never did that. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what I was going to be able to hear. I didn't know what it was going to be like. Right. I didn't know if I was going to be able to choose what I'm playing. And I wasn't. Like, even with Andy Chernoff, he's like, I had this amazing 67 precision. He's like, no, play my bass. Like, I never saw this bass before. Okay, you say so. You're the producer. Okay. Right. Like, I want people to come in and be really comfortable as they can be. Right. Like, I want them to come in and feel like I had a great experience making this record. And,
well, at its core, that's what a music producer is supposed to do.
I think so. But you hear these stories about producers and in the film industry, directors who make their subjects, forever, whatever word you want to use, make them not feel comfortable. Right. I listen, that's okay. Like, it's okay in certain scenes where you want people to feel fucked up in certain scenes. Like, we could take William Friedkin's stories. He went out of his way to make Linda Blair feel comfortable on the set. She was a young girl, but he also went out of his way for that one scene where he shot off a gun to make everyone feel uncomfortable. But that's the reaction he wanted, and he got it. Believe me, he got it. But I don't. To William Friedkin's defense, I think he really went out of his way to make his actors feel comfortable on the set, especially after I was really lucky to see him do a question and answer afterwards. But, like, let's take in music an example. Like, not many great words have been said about the late Phil Spector.
Right.
You know, that guy went sort of out of his way to make everyone feel kind of uncomfortable.
Sure.
I mean, he probably had he definitely had some mental issues. He was probably on the spectrum, didn't care about how people felt the same way,
right.
You know, like we see some of these multimillionaire CEOs, like the owner of Uber or some kind of people like that who are on the spectrum. They are physically psychologically on the spectrum, not to their defense. And they have to be told by their right-hand person, like, listen, not everyone's a robot.
Right.
You have to, you know, but like, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't want to come onto a set of a film or into a recording session and feel, look, Skittles is here. I wouldn't want to feel uncomfortable. I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. I don't want people to be surprised. You know, right. I don't want them to feel like, I didn't know we were doing this. I don't know. It's one thing to improv. Everyone has that moments to improv and do cool shit. But like, I want people to be prepared, comfortable, and have fun. That's, right. I mean, to me, I mean, like, I grew up on film, television, and music, and it was fun. That was an escape for me. That was fun, and I want it to be fun all the way through. Even the saddest movies, the most violent movies, and the most, you know, saddest songs and everything. I still want it. The process of making it should be fun. You know, I think so. Or it should be satisfying. It doesn't have to always be fun. You know, like
sure.
You know, that was it's a great quote from Werner Herzog.
You should walk away feeling good.
Yeah, and also
about the work.
Exactly. So, I don't know. You know, that's the way I see things.
But that's also gotten you into places, I think, just because of, like, I was pretty quickly able to assess the kind of person you are when we met, and you know, I felt camaraderie with you and pretty comfortable with you pretty quickly.
Yes. And
I think that working with you would definitely be an honor and a hell of a lot of fun.
I hope so. I mean, that's what I try to do.
Well, I think it's led you to opportunities too. Like you've correct me if I'm wrong, but you've gotten a chance to work with Weird Al. Yeah.
Well, here's the problem with Weird Al. Weird Al's the best, and he's awesome. I didn't get to meet him, unfortunately. I played on that record, but I wasn't. He recorded. I was recording with Osaka Pop Star, which is this guy John Caffiero. He's the manager of the Misfits. Best dude, totally amazing dude, and he made the Misfits ridiculous amounts of money. You know, when he took over the management for the Misfits, like I think those guys were floundering a bit, and I think he made them. I know for a fact that he made them millions of dollars on their merch deals and all this kind of deals, and he's. Even though it took him 20 plus years, he's single-handedly responsible for the Misfits reunions that we saw with Glenn Danzig, and he become friends with Glenn Danzig and all that kind of stuff, which is totally amazing. And he made a bunch of money. And while he was doing this stuff, the original lineup of Osaka Pop Star was Marky Ramone and Dez from Black Flag and Jerry from the Misfits, and for a little while Ivan Julian from Voidoids was playing guitar as well. So he put out a couple of records with those guys, and then he was working with my engineer Jesse Cannon, another amazing guy. He was working with him, and when he hooked up with Jesse ended up becoming his right-hand man, doing all his engineering and recording and everything that goes with that. And Jesse was the one who told John, he's like, oh, you should work with Dean. Dean could play all these instruments and you might get along with him. And we did, that's what happened. And so that I started working with John, and John was like, well, not only are we going to do our own stuff, but I'm doing this record called Dr. Demento Covered in Punk. And it's like all covers of songs that were popular on the Dr. Demento show, which I love. I'm a huge fan of novelty songs, huge fan, even before, and
Yeah, you and me both grew up on the Sunday night Dr. Demento show, right?
Oh yeah. Like, and I love, like, I love novelty songs. Like, I love them. Like, I think they're, as dumb as it is, like, I love songs like Winchester Cathedral and, like, They're Coming to Take Me Away and all this kind of, I love that kind of shit. Like, I always love
Barnes and Barnes stuff.
Exactly. I mean, like, John Cafiero, man, he's like really close. He's really close. One of the guys from Barnes and Barnes just died.
Oh.
Someone just died, but he's really close with those guys. He actually reissued the Barnes and Barnes record with Fish Heads. Wow. And he's really close with those guys. So I think someone from that band just died. So he brought me into this situation where we were doing these covers. They were doing songs that were popular on the Dr. Demento show, and one of the songs was, I was really lucky. We got to do Garbage Man by the Cramps, but that was with William Shatner, who fucking rules. He totally rules. And then we got to do a song with Fred Schneider from B-52s.
Yep.
We did Phil Harris's The Thing, which is one of my mom's favorite novelty songs from the late 50s, early 60s, which we did with Adam West, like literally 6 months before he died, which was rad. And then we did the song with Weird Al. We did Beat on the Brat.
Yeah.
But the unfortunate part is that all those dudes, well, not Schneider. I think Fred Schneider was living in New York, but I didn't see him. But John had to record all the vocals out in L.A. He had to go to L.A. to record all the vocals. But that being said, when he brought the final tracks out to Weird Al loved it, and Weird Al at first refused to play on it. Like, he wanted to sing on it, but he was like, I'm not playing accordion on it. I'm not going to do that. But John played him the tracks, and he was like, fuck, this is really cool. And he's like, Al, you should play accordion on this. And he ended up doing it. So that was rad. That was cool. So that was cool. So I got, that was really fun stuff. And we're supposed to do a follow-up. We're supposed to do a part 2. So hopefully that'll happen within the next year and a half or so. Because I know it would be really cool. But I had a great time doing that record, because not only did we get to do those songs, but we got to do the whole record. If you listen to it, it's basically a facsimile of it's a copy of his show.
Yeah.
Of what his show was like. So we do all the intros and outros and all that kind of stuff that he used to play, but it's our versions of it. So that's pretty cool. And I don't know if you know who Uncle Floyd was. You didn't grow up on the East Coast, right?
No.
So there was a guy out here, Uncle Floyd, who had a television show here in New Jersey, and he's all over the record, and I got to meet him and stuff, and that was like a huge thing for me. So that was super cool. So hopefully those guys will be involved on the next one, but I'm really looking forward to that, because not only working with John is a blast, but I also get, like, the recordings. I get to work with Dennis Dykin from the Smithereens plays drums.
Oh, wow.
And then also John Worster from Superchunk and Mountain Goats and Bob Mould plays drums and some stuff. So and these are like amazing musicians.
Yeah.
Really fantastic. So
incredible.
Really cool.
Cast characters,
really cool.
so to speak.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. Pretty 100%. Awesome stuff. I've enjoyed what I've seen. Even the videos, like for Osaka Popstar, they've been phenomenal. I love
that one animated video. That's so really good. Yeah,
so much fun
with Fred Armisen. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, super cool. Yeah, I was very lucky to get involved with that, and John's been nothing but amazing. Guy's a great dude. My only complaint about John is he's so fucking busy that we don't get to work enough. Right. Like he'll even write me. He'll be like, "Listen, we got to get ready for this recording," and I'm like, "Dude, send me the tracks. Tell me what." And then like 6 months later, he'll be like, "Dude, we got to get ready for these recordings." I'm like, "Okay." But the good news is that it's eventually will happen. Yeah. It's just you have to just hold your breath for a little while.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
So you said that things have slowed down for you, at least most recently, right?
Oh yeah, the pandemic killed everything.
Yeah,
pandemic.
Did you do a radio show for a little while?
Yeah, well, that's a whole other story. I was an early investor into a friend's company called Gimme Radio, which ended up being Gimme Metal and Gimme Country.
Yeah.
I mean, the overall umbrella was Gimme Radio, and we had Gimme Metal, which was a highly interactive internet radio station. Right. Same thing with Gimme Country, and Gimme Country was super cool too because it was really going out of its way, just like Gimme Metal, to focus on stuff that we felt that was not being was being obscured or obfuscated by the shadows, right, to say, and we had very great success in a very short amount of time, not monetarily, but we had plenty of listeners. And I really loved that job so much. I mean, it kind of consumed my life for a little bit. I was a DJ, but not just a DJ. I also was an engineer and programmer who I engineered anywhere between 10 and 12 radio shows per week.
Wow.
And it was from DJs, really highly diverse DJs, including, I was really lucky to do shows for Will Carroll from Death Angel.
Very cool.
He's a great dude, and he had a show on there. And also, I used to do shows for this guy, Alex Kane, who was probably the first heavy metal DJ probably in the world, because not on radio, but like a live DJ, because he was the first one. He was actually a dance DJ in Brooklyn who was also really into metal and used to go to Lemoore in Brooklyn growing up. And he was like one of the first guys who they asked, like, why don't you spin between bands and stuff? Because no one was doing that. He was the first one to be like, okay, I'm going to spin heavy metal, obviously what people want to hear at this club. Mm-hmm. And then that's what he started getting hired for. He was like kind of the first heavy metal DJ. That's so awesome. I do his shows, and his shows are great, really obscure, wild stuff from him. And I also did shows for this woman, Diane Farris, also known as Diane Kamikaze, who I had been listening to on WFMU radio for many, many years, which is a big, very popular freeform station, not unlike KEXP out west, like a kind of station like people everywhere listen to. So I used to listen to her shows all the time, and she was a DJ on there, and then I brought a lot of DJs on there. I brought Ross the Boss on there from Manowar and Dictators, and I brought Dave Catching on there. I did Dave Catching shows as well. Dave Catching was from Queens of the Stone Age and Eagles of Death Metal and a million other projects, and great dude, one of the best. And also had I also got Jessica Pimentel involved, an old friend of mine who is a musician, but she's also well known as an actress on Orange is the New Black and a couple other shows, and so I was doing a lot of stuff. I was doing that, and I loved it. I really loved it. I fell in love with this station, and things were going quite well until they weren't. And then just recently, just in April, we were backed by iHeartRadio, who was very generous with us. And then last minute, the San Fernando Valley Bank situation happened, and everyone who was investing in us, including iHeartRadio being the number one investor, everyone lost their shirt. And everyone's like, sorry guys, I know we promised you twice as much money, but we just fired half our staff, and we're wondering what we're going to be working with. So everyone left. All our investors left within like seconds. It seemed like seconds. And then like my boss had to scramble to try and find new investors, and by then it was too late. And we almost had it. We almost had another deal, but that fell through last minute too. And so since then, it's been just dead in the water. Right. So that sucked, because I really, really loved and believed in that station. Because the whole idea wasn't just, we're bringing you the most obscure fucking death metal and black metal and tech death and old weird stuff that no one's really finding here. And the same thing with country. We're bringing you the best Americana and the best new country and best new outlaw country and stuff that no one is playing on country radio. We were going to branch out. It wasn't just going to be that. It was going to be like, give me hip hop. It was give me classical, give me bluegrass. It was going to be shit. Give me Afro beats. Give me shit that no one fucking was doing.
It's funny. The whole premise of that entire project was something that I had years ago wanted to do, called Deeper Cuts, because there's so much more than just what's put on the radio.
Of course,
those are playlists. Those are what's popular. Those are force fed to the public.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we were against. We were real DJs from real either radio, music writing, or actual musicians DJing. You know, we had fucking Johan from Amon Amarth.
Right.
We had Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. We had celebrities like fucking, what's his name? Fucking who's the guy from what's the TV show? He's the best dude. Brian Posehn.
Oh yeah, Brian Posehn.
Like, that guy fucking rules, dude. He's the funniest, nicest, funniest dude. Huge metalhead. Yeah. He was playing. He had his own show on there.
That's awesome.
We had guys who ran Aquarius Records out of San Francisco, like one of the greatest record stores of the 20th century. That guys who put out unbelievable records and also knew their shit. Like, both those dudes, Alan Horrocks and who was the other dude? Andy. These were guys who were like absolute wizards as far as record collecting goes. Not just record collecting, both musicians, and they're both great dudes. And like, we had people like that, like really tastemakers, like heavy tastemakers. And plus, we would get bands that were on tour and get them, or bands that were going on tour, putting out a new record, we get them to do a guest show. Yeah. We had so many guest shows from all these bands, like, bands that were just starting. There's certain bands that will fucking tell you that if it wasn't for Gimme Radio letting us do a guest show and being like so popular, we would have a career. Like, they wouldn't like Night Demon or fucking Haunt. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, but all these bands are hardworking bands, but we really gave them a fucking push, like we really gave them a push. Like, bands like Spellbook and Witch Hazel and Chained to the Bottom of the Ocean. These are bands that no one really knew who they were. Right. And then we started playing them and had, at one point, 250,000 listeners. And then at next point, it was 300. Then it was 500,000, almost 700, almost, 750,000 listeners listening to shit that they would have never have ever been exposed to.
Yeah.
And that was exciting. That was exciting. Same thing with the country thing. Like, Jesse Dayton, sure, yeah, that guy fucking worked his fucking ass off, but most of those people wouldn't know who he was without Gimme Radio. And Gimme Radio, when he had Gimme Country, he got so popular that we gave him his own fucking station. We had like 2 separate stations on Gimme Country and gave him his own station, do whatever he wanted. Wow. So like, this guy was like, he was like going for it because he had all of a sudden hundreds of thousands of other listeners because he was on our radio station.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And like, that whole situation made me very excited.
Sure.
And I wanted to keep doing that. And now it's not here. And now what am I going to do? Go work for XM Radio? Yeah. If you're out there listening, hire me because I need the money. But even those people, like, listen, I have friends who work there and they say the same shit, dude. Yeah. After a while, it's just top for them. Man. It's top. They start playing the same shit.
Yeah, and and it's hard. It's hard enough in the music business as it is. Like, I've had a couple episodes that we've talked to people about that, and by and large, I think music has taken even a bigger hit than some of the film people have. Some of the creatives in the film industry, it's taken a huge hit.
I think so. I think that the film industries, they could bitch about it all they want, but they're really lucky to have so much money in streaming that like there's don't get me wrong, it's not the same type of money, but for someone to be like, well, I made this film, but it's only going to be on Netflix. Boo-hoo. Great. It's still going to be on Netflix, and a lot of people are going to see it, right? It may not get distribution, but at the same time, you talk to fucking regular Joe Blow. I mean, even, come on, man, even me and you, right? How often, and I may be projecting here, but me who loves I love the movies. I love them. When's the last time you went to the movies?
Yesterday.
See that I love to hear. See, me, like, my wife and I were like, oh, we should go to the movies this weekend because I haven't been in like 6 months. And this is I'm someone who love movies. I don't just love movies. I love movie theaters.
I'm fortunate enough. There's one literally a mile away, and it's like $6 to go to a matinee.
Well,
you can't beat that.
So that's right.
That's
right. Matter of fact, where I am now, there's someone took over there's 2 drive-ins that are still working here, and which is pretty rare. But one drive-in got taken over by some young hipster couple who are supposed to be super cool. So we may go tomorrow night to see Jaws and Close Encounters at the drive-in. So that's pretty rare.
Double Dreyfus.
But I mean, like, yes, exactly. That's a lot. That's a lot of Dreyfus. Yes, that's a lot of Dreyfus. Yeah, that would be the only thing better is if they played Stakeout.
Yes.
I saw Stakeout in theaters, but that's what I mean. It's like, I mean, at least there's that streaming thing, I guess. I don't know.
That's part of like what we've talked about too on some of these other shows is you even though you have like, there are still challenges, don't get me wrong, with video streaming, and there's, people aren't getting what they should be, that kind of thing. They're still working through that. Yeah. But I don't think that the listeners truly understand, like, yes, there's audio streaming, but the artists get fucked by the platforms that are streaming their music.
Well, let me ask you a question, because I don't know. I never even discussed this with my wife. What is it like in the film industry? Like, let's say you do a film and it's only going to, let's even go deep here. Let's say it's not even going to Netflix or Hulu. It's like, it's only like something I love. Like, this is exclusive on Tubi, right? Exclusive on Tubi, which really, for most people, they're like, what the fuck is Tubi? If you're a huge film fan, sure, you love Tubi, but it's like Tubi and Pluto, like my 2 favorite channels, but like nobody really knows, and the mainstream doesn't know who they are. So let's say a movie goes exclusive to Tubi, like is who's making the money there? Is somebody making the money?
Oh, you bet. Actually, I'll be honest with you. The producers are making a ton of money. Yeah, the streaming splits are very good with Tubi. Actually, they, if I remember correctly, they're the ones with the best payouts right now, more so than Netflix.
Wow, that's amazing.
And
good to know.
And what sucks is, and that's kind of why this whole writer strike thing came about. And there's been actors that have filed issues with things, and it's all through this. And it's about residuals and what their contract says, and it's navigating through the whole streaming thing because they're not being paid what they should be off their residual contract. Because streaming, and it's really the same problem. I just think it's being addressed quicker in film and television than it is in music. I see it a lot where, like guys like Spotify, like I've heard Spotify really doesn't pay shit.
No, they don't pay anything. Like you're really lucky. Like if you get, supposedly like if you get 100,000 plays.
Yeah. And that's the only way to get the music out there, right? Like nobody buys records anymore. It's few and far between. You have a market for people buying vinyl. Yeah. You have a market for people buying CDs, maybe still, but there's not very many people doing that. They buy it all on Apple Music, or they buy it all on Spotify, or they buy it online, and it's tough.
Or they don't buy it at all.
Right. Honestly, that's really the thing is people don't want to pay for music.
Yeah.
I just got a pretty cool Rat box set. Don't know what you're talking about.
You did.
Is it the Stephen Percy years?
No, it's the Atlantic albums.
Oh, that's good. That's cool. That's a very missed guitar player, Warren DeMartini. I don't know what he's doing now. Wish I knew.
He did shred.
He was amazing.
Him and Robin.
He was amazing. Poor Robin Ford, man. But at least he got to, before he had a really long demise, which was pretty terrible, he did get to bang, what's her name? Tawny Kitaen. So at least there was that. At least there was that, right? Mm-hmm. Tawny Kitaen was something. Witchboard.
Yeah.
We know a guy that worked on that movie.
We do. What's that? Oh yeah, yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I worked with that same director on Night of the Demons.
My favorite part of Witchboard is when they drop
awesome.
that the dummy off of the work site and it falls.
Oh God, it's terrible. It's really terrible. It's really terrible. That's a really terrible movie. But Night of the Demons is great. Night of the Demons. That
was my first film. This is the 35th anniversary year of Night of the Demons.
That's a great. I love that movie. Movie's hilarious. Really great. That must have been fun. Or maybe not.
No, it was. It was definitely fun. It had its challenges, but it was definitely fun.
Yeah, I like that movie a lot. It's great. Night of the Demons, a good double feature. Night of the Demons and the Return of the Living Dead.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very, very connected. Very, probably filmed in a lot of the same places too, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Seems like it. But
well, thanks so much for coming on today, man.
Well, thank you for having me on. And to our dear listeners, I'm sorry if I went off on a lot of tangents, which I normally do. It's just the way things go because I have ADD and ADHD and all that kind of stuff that doesn't make you want to stay on one subject for too long. Not on purpose, but just I go off on tangents. But it was great to be on here, and thank you. I appreciate it.
We really appreciate having you, man.
Yeah,
we'll have to have you back on. We can go in other tangents.
Yes.
Yeah, I would love that. I really, well, that's a whole other story. I think I confused myself getting into music and not getting into film. I should have probably got into film because I'm more interested. As I got older, I'm way more interested in film than I am into music.
Well, let's talk. Well, let's explore that.
Yeah, well,
music for film.
Well, yeah, well, but not even that. I just love I wish I had gotten into writing and
who says you can't?
Screenplays and all that. Well, no one says that. No one says that. Not even my mom. My mom says you could do anything you want.
Right.
She still says that. Yeah, I could do anything I want. But I mean, I'd love to be back on. Definitely.
We'll make it happen.
Yes.
Cosmo Demonic kicked major ass, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Unfortunately, that's completely over. It sucks. Guitar player, singer, main songwriter left. He moved to L.A. He's living in L.A. So he wanted to keep doing it, but there was no way. There was no way he was able to We even tried to keep a rehearsal space that was way too expensive in Brooklyn while he was out, and but there was no way. He's got kids. And that was a cool band, though. It's cool for a while it lasted.
And you were correct. The Exorcist 2 does have a very cool soundtrack.
Oh my God, the soundtrack is incredible, dude! Incredible.
It switches between haunting and then the really nice melodic tracks, for Reagan's theme, and then back to really scary shit again.
Yeah, the best part, the scariest theme of that whole movie he did. I got to see him do it live when I went. I got to see Ennio Morricone at Radio City Music Hall.
Oh wow!
And when I went, I thought to myself, sort of as a joke, I was like, I hope he does something off of Exorcist 2. It's the greatest, but I don't think he's going to do that. He's has a whole career of thousands of movies, right? Hundreds and hundreds of movies, even movies that we don't even know about that he just did in Europe, in Italy. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, I got the program, and the third movement in was a song from Exorcist 2, and I'm like, holy shit, dude, you got to be fucking kidding me! 100-piece choir with a 75-piece orchestra.
Wow,
it's insane.
Did he do anything from The Bird with the Crystal Plumage?
I don't remember, but that weirdly enough, that movie has become one of my favorite rewatches.
Yeah,
the last 5 years. It's not because it is a great movie.
The twist, I think, is just so unique in that.
The twist is also unique, but the whole vibe of the movie is amazing. The vibe of the movie is there's something really magical about that movie.
Have you seen Four Flies?
Yes, I like that.
Yeah,
a lot. I like that a lot. There's something though about that movie, Bird with the Crystal Plumage, that there's an atmosphere to that movie.
It's almost like avant-garde cinema of the 70s, like that kind of community.
It's really dreamy. Like you feel like you're inside someone's dream
the whole time. Yeah,
and I really love that. And there's very few movies that do that. And to Argento's defense, it is a very Italian thing. Like, I'm a big fan of Antonioni.
Yes,
and I think all of Antonioni's have that feeling. All of his films feel like you're inside someone's bizarre dream that you
blow up.
You really fucking blow up. Blow up's amazing, but like the trilogy, the La Ventura and all that stuff, and also The Passenger. Jesus Christ, The Passenger. Oh, yeah. That fucking, oh my God, that movie is fucking, that is amazing. Like, that's amazing. Like that. And there's certain other movies that are like that I just now thinking about it, I'm thinking about how much I'm into that feeling. Mm-hmm. And I'm realizing that every movie that I've loved and rewatched hundreds of times has that feeling. Like Blade Runner has that feeling, as does one of my favorite movies ever is pretty much anything by Tarkovsky. Mm-hmm. But Solaris I could watch over and over and over again, and even to an extent has nothing to do with these Euro art house films, but like even to an extent, and it still holds up, of course, as we all know, is Nightmare is the original Night of the Living Dead.
Yep.
That the vibe on that film, like people
down the street.
Exactly near you, exactly. And the other thing is that people don't realize how amazing that movie is. They just see it as like, oh yeah, it's the first. A lot of people just see it. Oh, it's the first.
It's so much more than a zombie movie.
It's so much more than that. And I also didn't realize until a few years ago how much in common George Romero and also Russ Meyer have in common. Like both really dreamy, totally different subject matters, of course, but completely dreamy, small town, kind of weird, surreal, dreamy shit.
Have you seen The Amusement Park?
It's pretty intense. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And it reminds me, what I like about The Amusement Park, it also reminds me of Carnival of Lost Souls.
Oh yeah.
It has that vibe to it where it's, and also what's the movie I'm forgetting with what's his name from Easy Rider?
Hopper?
Yeah, Dennis Hopper. It's one of his earliest films where he meets he goes also to an amusement park and he meets like a girl who's not really there. She's sort of like, what's that movie called? Oh, it's fucking awesome, dude. It's the same type of feeling, like Carnival of Souls and the amusement park. It has this like otherworldly, surreal, fucking cool thing going on, and I forget the name. I just saw it recently. It's an old film, like one of Hopper's first.
Okay,
it's fucking awesome. It's totally awesome. Forget what it's called, like something Ride or Last Ride or
Night Tide.
That's it. Night Tide. Not Ride, Tide. That movie's cool as shit, dude. It's like really like trippy, surreal,
atmospheric, supernatural thriller involving a mermaid in an amusement park.
Exactly. So there you go. But
one for the watch list for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Have you guys seen anything new that you're into?
Some stuff.
Anything that pops out?
I'm really into the new Dune movie. I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
love that adaptation. I think.
I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I thought that was amazing. I loved that, and I loved. Have you guys seen? You guys are into the Godfather, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you guys seen The Offer yet?
Yes, I loved it.
I loved it so much. Oh my God! Like, if at any time someone says you can watch Robert Evans on screen or someone doing a perfect adaptation of Robert Evans, count me in. I'm totally into it. That guy who does Bob Evans in The Offer is better than Bob Evans. He's amazing. Yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Guy rules. Totally rules. That I loved. Have you guys saw Nope, right? Did you like Nope?
I don't think I didn't see Nope. No.
I didn't see it either.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you got to see it. You got to see it. You guys are into sci-fi and shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to see Nope. Nope. I thought was the best movie of the last 5 or 6 years, at least.
Yeah, I liked Us, so I like his work. But,
yeah, I liked Us the second time I saw it. I loved Get Out, but Nope is amazing.
You watched Gaspar Noé's Vortex?
No.
That's Dario's in it as an actor, Dario Argento, and it's like a story about end of life, similar to like the amusement park, and it's about Dario living with his wife who has dementia.
And where did you see this?
I saw it at a cinema, like a special screening. I actually have a Blu-ray of it.
Shit,
but it's super nice. It's I don't want to spoil anything, but it's essentially about their journey through the end of their lives.
So this is Gaspar Noé?
Yeah.
Oh fuck, man! I love his films.
And it's split screen, so you see her perspective and his perspective, and he's trying to like write a film, and she's like just causing all these problems, and it's cool.
Oh, I have to see that.
Yeah.
I love his films. I think Gaspar Noé is great.
Oh, absolutely. That Lux Eterna was so good. Oh,
good. I like his films a lot. And the other filmmaker I really love is Michael Haneke. I'm really digging all his stuff. I really loved all his stuff. I love, of course, the first one I saw was Funny Games, the original. Mm-hmm. But I went on and fell in love with Cachet and White Ribbon and all that kind of shit. Just really uncomfortable filmmaking. Really beautiful stuff. Really, you don't forget those films, which is more than I could say for a lot of stuff. Think of how much stuff's coming out. Cool. Well, guys, thank you so much.
Yes.
I guess we're done talking here. I think.
Yes.
I could keep talking, but I'm going to let you guys.
Yes,
go.
We could always do a part 2 in the near future. Thank you for coming on. So much, Dean. It was cool to hear all your stories, and you're a legend. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will share all the links and everything once the episode's out with you guys. And of course, thank you everyone for tuning in on another episode of HyPODermic, the pod that sticks you deep. I am the pod boss, T.J. Bowser. That's Nick Benson. That's Dean Rispler. We will see you next time.
Woo!
Yeah.
Thank you.
人の作った星が世界を伝えてきた。そして今、新しい星がニュースを変える。